This is from the DOD, that they can confirm that Al Udeid Airbase, and I'm probably not pronouncing that right, in Qatar, was attacked today by short and medium range ballistic missiles originating from Iran. At this time, there are no reports of American casualties. We are closely monitoring the situation. We'll provide additional information as it becomes available. Look, I think the big picture here is that, first off, let me preface this by saying we only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. We'll see as things develop here. But the big picture here is that I think this is why we elected President Trump. I think he's handled this masterfully since the very beginning. He's shown thoughtful deliberation and consternation as he made a very critical decision to send in the B-2 bombers over the weekend to take out the nuclear sites in Iran and the other missile strikes that you saw, the Tomahawk missiles from the Navy ships that they used on the other sites. This is a huge moment for the president. It's a legacy-defining moment, and I think he's handled it masterfully. And now we're seeing what appears to be, and again, this is early, so we don't know if there's other things coming or if there's other stuff going on, what appears to be a chance for de-escalation and a shot to do exactly what President Trump set out to do on this was a one-and-done thing, right? Like, the U.S. did its part. I think that the speech you saw from President Trump on Saturday night, which was very short, where he was flanked by the Secretaries of State and Defense as well as the Vice President, when he announced this to the nation and to the world, it was a little bit bellicose, right? Like, so he was up there very aggressive with the Iranians, talking about future strikes as a possibility. And I think a lot of America First folks were a little bit perturbed by that. But I think that the point of that speech was to deter any serious Iranian response, and it seems to have worked, right? Like, so again, I think that the point here is that people across the America First movement, and I've been saying this throughout the entire process here, dating back 2 weeks now since Israel's began striking Iran, is that people have trust in the president. I think that the MAGA America First movement is unified behind President Trump. They want to see that they have a lot of trust in him. And frankly, they have a lot of distrust in our establishment and institutions, et cetera, the intelligence agencies, the Pentagon, et cetera. And rightfully so, because of the failures of leaders in both political parties for the last 30 or so years, really dating back to, in the post-Ronald Reagan era, both Bushes, Clinton, Obama, Biden, all of these presidents have done serious damage to the credibility of our various institutions, our intelligence agencies, and our military institutions. But I think President Trump is bringing it back. And I think this is a big part of the reason why, too, you're seeing huge numbers, booms in recruiting, right? Like, I was speaking this weekend to the Navy's, U.S. Navy Secretary spokeswoman, who's our former Pentagon correspondent from Breitbart, Christina Wong. She was telling us that they've already 3 months ahead of schedule, already hit the fiscal year's recruiting goals for the United States Navy. And that's because Americans have confidence in President Trump. And I think that as President Trump navigates this, really perilous situation in the Middle East, I think he's done a master class. And we'll see where things go from here. But I do believe that America First leaders have the utmost confidence in President Trump. And I think he's handled it well. And I think that the people, in the neocon globalist establishment that are pushing for more are wrong. And I think that the people in the Democrat side that are pushing for less are wrong. I think President Trump has struck an incredible balance here. And again, how he handles this moving forward, very similar to the Soleimani strike. This is a legacy-defining moment for him as president of the United States, and where we go from here and what happens next. And again, all the proper caveats here. We don't know what we don't know, and we do know what we do know. But things are looking good for President Trump.
Matt, I think that's right. And I think that President Trump clearly drew a line around this nuclear program, saying that this was always going to be his main priority when it came to this situation. Now, obviously, there are going to be questions as we go down the line between Israel and Iran and how much longer that air campaign will come down. We talked about here on this program the the worry of air attrition and whether or not Israel can keep up the air defense that they've been conducting. I was actually, just as we were preparing for the show, I was watching some of the air defense over Kiev because they're getting hit right now. The Russians are still, by the way, rocking Kiev, and they're really advancing along the front lines because a lot of people aren't paying attention to that. Well, everyone's distracted. And of course, Kiev looking as though its air defense resources are running low as well because this is a finite world. And conservative, by the way, this is something that makes conservatives different from liberals. We understand that we live in a world of finite resources. Liberals don't seem to quite grasp that. And so when we look at all of this, the question, of course, for President Trump is, what is the best America first way through the entire thing? And to your point, I think he's played it very well. And I think he understands that for the U.S. to get involved at a higher level, the way you're hearing all these neocons call for is just not something that there's an appetite for.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. But again, a lot depends on events from here, right? And I do think that people have the utmost confidence and trust in President Trump to handle it well. And again, it's sad that we have to go through this, right? But the reason why we have to have this debate and this discussion openly is because of the failures of people like George Bush and the failures of people like Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush. All of these loser presidents, right, of both parties really did a number on the credibility of our government. And President Trump is having to dig us out of this mess. But I think that if you compare the way that Bush handled Iraq to the way that Trump is now handling Iran, it's just night and day better. And I think that under Trump here, and I think that the president is going to continue to look. I always tell people, because I know President Trump really well, I always tell people this, and I've talked to him so many times over the last decade plus, right? Like even before he came down the escalator. When he came down the escalator that day, I was standing at the bottom, and then I did the first interview with him up in his office later that day in the 26th floor of Trump Tower. That was a little over a decade and a week ago or something. I always tell people one of his best qualities, and you don't always see this because you don't always see it when the cameras are rolling. He's an excellent listener, right? So he's always soliciting feedback and
I say this all the time. I say he never gets credit for it.
Never gets credit for it. He's an excellent listener, and he's really trying to strike the right balance, and he's very thoughtful and deliberative, right? And I think that as he made this decision going into last week, I think he went back and forth on it, and he was really seriously, he wasn't sure. By the way, it was funny because you saw the reporters there in the White House when he was putting up the flagpoles last week, trying to nail him down on, are you going to do it? And when are you going to do it? And he's like, you don't know what I'm going to do. You don't know when I'm going to do. I don't even think he knew what he was going to do. I think he was still soliciting information from different people and different opinions and considering it. And then he made his decision. And I think that the America First movement, which President Trump created and built, stands behind him. And I think that all of these establishment media people that are out there saying that there's division in the MAGA movement and so on, there is no division. I think that people are very unified behind President Trump. They support him as this is going forward, and they know that he's handling it very thoughtfully and carefully, and he's trying to not get us dragged into a long-term war.